Hello and welcome. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. Over my career, I've had an intimate view in one of our nation's most taboo topics, your wealth. How many of you watching, honestly, experience a little bit of fear when we talk about your money? Over the last 20 years, I've had the opportunity to work with thousands of families from all different backgrounds, different life stages, and different financial challenges. And what I've picked up on is that there's certain patterns, certain skill sets, and even a certain mindset that, if applied, can make you experience more financial joy. If you follow these principles that we're going to talk about today, it doesn't matter what field of work you do, what your background is, or how financially savvy you are. It doesn't matter how old you are. I believe that if you apply these principles today, you can literally transform where you are and take your journey to where you want to be. Now, I want to take you back to March 9th, 2009. I took a call from a grandmother who had reached her wits' end. Now, if this date rings a bell, it's because it was the absolute bottom of the Great Recession. It was a time when people were losing their homes, their jobs, and their investment accounts had already fallen by more than 50%. Listening to the news, it would seem like financial Armageddon would never end. People were calling in a panic. This was the day I took a call that I wish I could do over. It was the day the one got away, and I've been determined ever since not to let it happen again. You see, a grandmother called in and could not witness her account decline anymore. At the lowest point, the worst possible time, I could not talk her off that ledge. She sold her college account to cash. Now, what was impossible to know at that time was that this date marked the bottom. It's only visible in hindsight. Months and years later, the market recovered just as it always has and just as it always will. But her emotions and fear got the best of her. And that one decision impacted her granddaughter's ability to afford college. I understand that life changes. Money is so emotional, and even the best laid plans require us to pivot in order to reach our goals. But here's what I want you to realize. You have far more control than you know. And that's what I want to share with you today. You have the power to design your best life. Hi, I'm Cassandra Smalley. I hold the Certified Financial Planner and Chartered Financial Analyst designations. It's a combination held by fewer than 1% of financial advisors. I'm the founder and CEO of Cassandra Smalley Wealth Management and self-proclaimed financial joy maker. I've won a few accolades over my career, but on the fun side of things, I'm a Friends TV show fan, and I still watch the show. I was a Gatorette at the University of Florida and performed in front of 90,000 fans during pregame and halftime shows. Talk about an adrenaline rush. My favorite weekend getaways usually involve going to the springs where we kayak and the kiddos get to jump out of rope swings and into the river. And I have two girls, so all of my free time is really devoted to cheering them on and their many activities. I understand the importance of aligning our goals with what matters most to us. And I've spent my career helping thousands of women like you take that leap from career life to living their retirement dream. And today I'm going to give you the tools and practical tips you need to get to that next level. Because I'm on a mission to close the gender wealth gap. And you're going to help me do just that today by investing in yourself. Today, we're going to talk about why women's wealth matters, and it matters a lot. You will learn how to embrace the steps of a wealthy mindset to transform your visions into reality. And I want to ensure you walk away with a few tools and ways of making money talks fun. Most people don't realize that our money patterns began in childhood. Our experiences and beliefs about money were shaped in those early years. How our parents treated money, who we looked up to, who we admired, what we believed success looks like, how others were treated. All of that influenced your patterns and behaviors to this day. And those different perspectives means that even as a sibling who grew up in the same house as you would likely have a different set of beliefs and values. But childhood experiences goes one step further. Even as children, boys and girls are often taught differently about money matters. And that can have a profound difference in the quality of life between those different genders. When you fast forward and look decades into the future, men and boys get more conversations about making money, and money is often viewed positively. While women and girls, they tend to hear more conversations about saving money, and money tends to be viewed more negatively. Even as kids, boys are encouraged to take more risks, jump out of trees, get dirty, while girls are often taught to be more proper and safe. These little nuances, these differences, may actually be a reason why we see studies that show women tend to invest less than men, which is crazy because we know that women need to build more wealth due to our longevity. So some of these mindsets and money scripts have been ingrained since childhood. Now, I'm passionate about making sure that women, especially, have a voice at the financial table. After all, nearly 1 in 3 women will see age 95, and 80 to 90% of women will be responsible for managing their own wealth or another's in their lifetime. And women are often impacted so much more so than men when it comes to building wealth. She is likely the one who would take a career break for a caregiving role, whether that's for children or it could be for an aging relative. And if that's the case, that means she had less time and money saved in her retirement plans, less paid into Social Security. And these are just a few examples of what contributes to the gender wealth gap, where research shows that women own just 32 cents for every dollar a man owns. And if a woman decides to step away and then jump back onto the career track, studies have even shown that her trajectory and her income suffer more than her male counterpart, even when those career breaks were the same. There are even heartbreaking studies that show how mothers in the workplace are penalized with lower pay and opportunities, while fathers were shown to have a boost when they were known to have children. And I'm sure you can guess how troublesome these wealth gaps could be after a divorce, which often leaves women facing poverty post split more often than men. So, throughout our careers as women, we face a very different set of challenges. And even the corporate ladder looks a bit wobbly for women. Actually, I think some of those rungs might be broken. Opportunities for women at the highest levels are still measuring a dismal 12% of the roughly 15,000 C suite roles. And more recent news cited that for every one female who was promoted, two had left the director level and above. Allegedly, there were too few women to promote in the first place to diversify these roles. So, on top of all of this, women more often hold on to cash, which doesn't keep up with inflation and only makes these gaps worse. We feel like cash is safe and secure. I mean, look at all we're up against. But too much cash might just be the riskiest thing you own. With all these factors, it's no wonder that security feels very different for women. But women today are facing these challenges head on. 60% of college enrollment identifies as female, and more women are starting businesses than men, showing that women are taking matters into their own hands. Money is still very much a man's world. Yet research shows that women are awesome at building wealth and actually do better at investing, running companies, and control some 80% of consumer purchasing decisions. So don't let anyone tell you not to splurge on lattes or avocado toast. Those tiny indulgences are not what's causing these wealth gaps. We're actually hella good with our money when we take the reins, and that's what you're here to do today. It matters to your future self. In fact, she's screaming at you to take notice. Every day that we delay, we are costing our future self financial security and comfort. So it's time to eliminate those self sabotaging habits. Embrace a wealthy mindset. Design a clear path to your goals. Establish systems that allow you to save and invest effortlessly to design that life you love. Feel confident and in control of your relationship with money, and your future self will thank you. Inflation is one of the biggest reasons you should be investing. And that means beyond your bank accounts or money market, beyond CDs and I bonds. Being too conservative may actually be riskier than investing. It's like a hole in the bottom of your purse, and the dollar bills are just leaking out a little each day due to inflation. Just to make the math easy to follow here, let's say you needed $100,000 to sustain your normal standard of living. At just average inflation, that original $100,000 is worth about half as much in around 20 years. So if you're in your 30s today, that means by the time you're in your 60s, you may need $200,000 in income just to sustain that same lifestyle, just by accounting for inflation. Stocks or equities, which are ownership shares of companies, are a great way to grow your money over the long term and have consistently outpaced inflation. But I hear this question all the time. Is now really a good time to be investing? The market is so high, or there's an election ahead, or whatever the crisis du jour the financial journalists are bantering about in the media. The problem with this thinking is that there is always something in the news. We could list thousands of market, political, or economic events. It creates a wall of worry. Let me ask you this to those that are watching. How often do you think the market drops at least 10%? How often does the market drop at least 10%? Believe it or not, the market drops at least 10% or more from its high about once a year. That should be something you should expect to happen. Just like the sun will come out again, the way the market and our economy functions, declines are temporary, prices recover, and the market has historically always trended back up. Being an investor requires you to be an optimist. By waiting on the sidelines, you're only costing your future self. Investing is a very simple process that everyone here can do today. But there's one tricky part. It's not always emotionally easy. Now, clearly, no one knows what the market will do in the future. But I do know that time is on your side. I like to think about investment strategies in buckets based on time frames. If you have immediate cash needs in the next year or two, certainly those funds should be ultra conservative and not invested in the market. The funds you plan to use for retirement could be more aggressively invested if you don't need to access them for quite some time. But here's where many retirees get wrong. You don't want to become ultra conservative just because you stepped into retirement. We already learned there's nearly a 1 in 3 chance of seeing age 95, which means a typical retiree may still have a 30-year time horizon. What's amazing to see by this illustration is that the chance of having negative returns by investing in the market over most 10 or more year horizons in history is almost non-existent. Time is on your side. Now, here's why other people fail. But you're not other people. You're here to invest in yourself and in your future. No excuses. Now, I'm sure you've heard a horror story or two of those who lost it all. But oftentimes, the reason people lose is when they start treating investing like it's gambling money at the casino. They chase a hot meme stock or hear about crypto and don't understand the risks. They look for the easy button or a friend's get rich quick scheme, or think the market is too high, so we must get out and stay on the sidelines. Perhaps they wait until recession strikes and give in to fear at the worst possible time, like the grandmother in our earlier story, right before the economy recovers. Investing takes time. It takes discipline to stick with your plan. Just like you take care of yourself in other ways, through regular exercise or eating your veggies every day or brushing your teeth, You can't do any of those things just once and be done. Regular, healthy investing is a habit that allows you to take care of your financial well being. So, I want to share with you how to embrace the steps of a wealthy mindset. Now, I won't be able to cover each in detail today, but I do want to share a few examples of these steps with you. The first is mindfulness, which starts with identifying the values that are important to you, embracing financial self care, gaining what I call the 3 C's, getting clarity over your financial picture, confidence in your investment decisions or leaning on professionals if you need the guidance, and gaining control over your finances. In mindfulness, you're creating goals that inspire and learning how to overcome the fears that have been holding you back. In wellness, we're creating healthy habits and systems that are going to serve you best and learning how to have honest and transparent communications about money matters. In security, we begin building your financial foundation and learning how to prepare for the unexpected. In success, we build our retirement plan and create a lasting legacy. At freedom, the focus is on living with purpose to create your joyful life. Now, let me ask you to think about this. Of all the things that influence our finances, what is the most influential factor in your investment success? Since this is a pre-recorded session today, I'm going to share a few answers that I commonly hear. Some that I might hear are the market or the economy, corporate earnings, maybe your salary, how good you are at budgeting, owning real estate, avoiding student loans, politicians may have some influence, taxes, access to 401ks, the privilege of an inheritance. All of these may have some influence, but it still boils down to one factor. And that answer is staring you in the mirror. It's you. You are the most influential factor to your financial success. It's your behavior, your discipline, your habits, and your decisions. Learning what you have the ability to control, such as your savings rates, how you invest, your mindset, and making those smart financial decisions. All of these factors are controlled by you. Investing in yourself and in your future are the best ways to close some of these wealth gaps and reach financial freedom. If you haven't already, start investing today, even if it's small. Make a commitment to your future self because guess what? She deserves nice things too. Now, I want to share a quick story with you today about how getting wealthy and staying wealthy are actually two very different skill sets. I took a weekend vacation to visit the iconic America's largest home. Stepping on the grounds of the Biltmore estate will undoubtedly take your breath away. It's a 250-room chateau of architectural elegance with meticulously groomed botanical gardens, 8,000 acres of serene countryside overlooking the North Carolina mountains. The Biltmore estate was one of the Vanderbilt's lavish homes during the Gilded Age. It had libraries and banquet halls and indoor pools and a bowling alley. Every single room was a sight to see. Now, today we can enjoy as connoisseurs of history and art, but at the time, the Vanderbilts were known as some of the wealthiest people in America, building fortunes thanks to a booming railroad business. But despite having $100 million reported at Cornelius Vanderbilt's passing in 1877, the temptation of the Gilded Age led to radical spending. Within a few generations, that family's wealth dissipated. With such a legacy, how is it possible to see family wealth rise and fall to such a degree? Now, it's estimated that about 70% of wealthy families will lose their wealth by the second generation, and 90% would lose it by the third. Unfortunately for the heirs of the wealthy Vanderbilt name, wealth lasted not too much longer. And this story is so common, from everyday families that pass on wealth to their heirs to celebrities whose fortunes seem to be endless. Staying wealthy requires a wealthy mindset too. Talking to our partners about money is tough enough, but for the future generations that will inherit it, money, values, and expertise are just as important to communicate. So, with each client, one of the first things we focus on is understanding their values and goals. So, in one sentence, I want you to write down what is most important to you. Why are you saving for your future? What does money and financial freedom mean to you? What's it all for? Publicly committing your goals to someone increases your chance of completing that task to 65%. But I want everyone here watching to get the highest possible success rate. So after this session today, I want you to find an accountability partner and I want you to schedule a time with them. Share your goals, share fears, share experiences, and have a money talk. That regularly scheduled money date is going to help improve your chance of success up to 95%. So, a practical tip is complete a values and goals exercise to gain clarity what's most important to you and what's important for you to achieve. And once you've decided to save and invest, you may be wondering where to go next. So I put together this order of savings operations, but please keep in mind this will differ for each person, and I could make the case for switching any one of these around or tackling a few simultaneously. So it's important that you talk to your professional about this. But generally speaking, we want to start by building that emergency fund, taking advantage of employer matching programs if you have access to them, paying off those high interest rate credit card debts, funding your health savings accounts if you have access to one. Health savings accounts are actually triple tax exempt and the most tax advantageous investment account there is. Then focus on any other high interest rate debts you may have, maximizing your retirement savings options, and investing in a taxable account. And once your retirement savings goals are on track and you've put yourself in a good position financially, then focus on savings for others or paying down lower interest rate debts. So, what else can you do to make sure your financial house is in order? This financial foundation checklist will help you see if there's areas that you may still need to focus on to have the basics covered. So, step one here says, I pay off credit card balances in full each month. Step two, I've established an emergency fund. Step three, I save 15 to 20% of my income for the future. Number four, I've updated beneficiaries and created a basic estate plan with the assistance of an attorney. Number five, I have sufficient insurance coverages. Number six, I use several different investment vehicles to provide the greatest tax flexibility now and in the future. And I'll pause here for a moment because I want to explain this one a little bit more. So, just like I mentioned in the order of savings operations, building up several different buckets provides you with tax flexibility in the future. You get better control over which account to take money from and therefore how it will be taxed. So, that means building up pre tax accounts like 401ks or Roth IRAs, which are after tax accounts that grow tax deferred and tax free. Having money in taxable accounts like an individual, joint, or trust. And I could say a fourth would be health savings accounts if you have access to them. Number seven says that my accounts are diversified, meaning I don't have more than 5% in any one company. I've established a strategy for each of these accounts. I invest consistently and I rebalance routinely as needed. And the eighth step, I've established a plan of action to achieve my personal and financial goals, and I'm taking the steps to achieve them. So, how many of those can you check off yes to today? So, your practical tip Complete this checklist and see how many you can answer yes to. Then I want you to take a look at it and see what is the most important topic for you to focus on next. Now let's talk about time machines. I'll admit it's probably not as cool as the DeLorean from Back to the Future, but this time machine still influences your present and future self. Our experiences influence our perception of the world in which we live. This leads us to make decisions based on emotion and willpower. Delayed gratification to benefit our future self requires us to test and build this willpower muscle. The most infamous example of testing this concept of delayed gratification first stemmed from Walter Mischel's marshmallow test. The test measured a preschooler's ability to wait patiently for 15 minutes without eating a marshmallow. If they succeeded, they would get not one, but two tasty treats later. An interesting lesson came from some of these follow-up studies, though. The study showed that as children who were able to wait longer at age 4 and 5 became adolescents whose parents rated them as more academically and socially competent, verbally fluent, rational, attentive, planful, I like that word, and able to deal with frustration and stress. They also achieved higher scholastic performance than those who did not have the same levels of self-control. Perhaps there is some financial wealth building correlation there too. The behavioral time machine took this one step further. So Daniel Goldstein, a Microsoft researcher and a professor at Wharton, together with Hal Hirschfield, shared a behavioral time machine experiment. Through virtual reality, they wanted to see if people were able to connect with a future version of themselves to improve their ability to achieve that delayed gratification, not in marshmallows, but in money. So what they did was they took pictures of people. In this case, it was college age kids, and used software to age them to show these individuals what they would look like when they were 60, 70, and even 80 years old, and tried to test whether they were actually assisting their imagination by looking at the face of their future self. And could that change their investment behavior? The experience enabled these participants to empathize with the outcomes of saving more now to increase the well-being and the perceived happiness of their future avatar. So they used a slider to help toggle this trade-off decision. The younger face would get happier and happier, saving nothing because they were spending it all, and the older face turned miserable. And slowly, they moved the slider up the chart and essentially saving more and more at the higher rate. The younger face is now miserable and unhappy, and the older face is actually quite pleased with the decision. As one face smiled, the other face frowns. And it wasn't telling these individuals which way to move the slider. It was just this reminder that you are connected to and tied to this future self. The changing face allowed you to visually see who gets to enjoy the fruits of their labor, the younger self or the older self. It's a balancing act though, right? Now, if we could picture exactly how our future would unfold and all the decisions that would provide us with our ideal lifestyle, of course, it would be easier to take those actions today. But absent this perfect lens of our future self, being cognizant of our actions and leaning into the exercise, that willpower muscle, will lead us down a path of smarter financial decisions. So the most lucrative time machine we can get our hands on is truly the power of compound investing. Take a look at the difference between saving $200 a month starting at age 25 versus at age 45. You've all heard the saying that the best time to plant a tree was yesterday and the second best time is today. So even if you're starting later, it doesn't mean you shouldn't start at all. It only means that you will likely need to play a little catch up, and you also have a little less time and room for mistakes. And this is where, if you aren't speaking to a professional to guide you through complex financial decisions, it may be beneficial to seek out that professional opinion on how you can make the biggest impact. It's so much easier to reach those financial goals when you have time on your side. But remember what we talked about earlier? Investing is simple, but not always easy to stick with those long-term plans when life throws us a curveball. The discipline factor is important to your success too. So, practical tip today: create a forecast based on your current savings and investment rates. Take a look. What percent of your income are you saving currently? And when you forecast that out, how much are you projected to have at retirement? Now, let's talk about making money talks fun. Money dates and money parties are really a playful way to get couples or friends to come together and talk about money matters. But keep it lighthearted. It should be an enjoyable experience. We want to get to a point where we reduce the stress and anxiety around common topics like budgeting. This is the time to talk about the fun you want to do together, celebrate milestones, and learn together. Honesty, transparency, and vulnerability bring people closer together. But let's start small. And I'd like you to start with icebreakers, kind of like going down memory lane. Ask each other, what did you want to be when you grow up? What money lessons did you learn from your parents? Did you agree with how they handled money? And what was your first childhood job? I mean, did selling Girl Scout cookies teach you entrepreneurship skills? How to negotiate and sell and save for troop goals? Talk about life planning goals. Like, what would a perfect retirement day look like? Describe this perfect day. What would you be doing from the moment you woke up to the moment you go to sleep? Where are you? Who are you with? What did you do with your time? And let's not forget about the importance of family meetings. Family meetings help teach the next generation, but they are vitally important to share where to find important estate planning documents. Meet the advisor, estate planner, or CPA of the generation either above or below you in case of an emergency. And if you own a family business, those regularly scheduled family meetings are critical to pass along important lessons learned. So let's try a few. I want you to write down your answers so you can share these with others later too. This first question says, what is one thing you've always splurged on and one thing you were always frugal about? I love seeing the range of answers here because we all view money very differently. The second question says, what is the first big thing you saved up for as a kid? For me, if you remember that big boom box you would see like Fresh Prince put over his shoulder, it had a dual cassette player and you could record songs from one to the other or from the radio. Of course, I'm dating myself a little bit here. The third one, what is the best money, life tip, or investment advice you ever received? And finally, you might want to save this one for your journal later, but if you could create 5 versions of yourself, all in parallel universes, all enjoying their best life. And let's not think that money is a concern at this point. We want to hear more about your goals. What are they each doing? I'm sure you have some great answers. So here's a practical tip. And ask these questions at your next family dinner. What stories emerge from your conversations? Who had the best money or life tip? And don't forget to schedule your next money date or money party or family meeting. It takes courage to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. This is true whether it's having these tough conversations, expressing fears or concerns, taking that leap of faith in your career, or investing in the market for the first time. The biggest risk you take is not taking one. So I want you to ask yourself, what does financial freedom mean to you? What is living your joyful life worth to you? Define it. My personal favorite is the second definition here, but I want you to write down what it would feel like to no longer have to work for money, and instead, your money is working for you. Financial freedom can be yours. You've just learned how to succeed with your finances, what most people never get a chance to learn. You've learned the challenges women face and how to level up. And women don't manage money the way men do, and they're actually better at it when they take the reins. You've learned how to take control, close those vulnerability gaps that can derail you, and recentered your focus on your values. You've just learned the right framework towards financial freedom and how to approach money talks that center on storytelling and with your accountability partner, AKA your important people. That will lead you towards a path that increases your chance of success up to 95%. Now, with the principles you've learned today, I am confident you will not let fear over events like recessions or whatever the news story of the day control your mindset. We are breaking down the barriers that create challenges to women building wealth by taking that next step in your financial journey today. You have the power to design your best life. You came to this session not just to learn, but to act on what you've learned. If you don't want to waste any more time so that you can build your financial freedom framework and take your wealth to the next level, then scan the QR code right now and schedule your consultation. I promise you this is one step that every woman should take. Sign up now because your success story is waiting to be written. I'm here to guide you every step of the way, and I can't wait to meet you.